What's up, Bulls Nation? You find yourselves locked on Bulls. I'm Matt Peck. Joined as always by Big Dave. Up ahead on today's episode, we haven't yet gotten a chance to talk about the recent interview that Bulls president and COO Michael Reinsdorf did with our guy Casey Johnson a few days ago. So we're going to do that now, notably talking about what Michael Reinsdorf's thoughts are on the Bulls entering the luxury tax this offseason and just how impressed he's been with the jobs performed by his new front office. That's next on a fresh Locked On Bulls. Let's go.
You are Locked On Bulls, your daily podcast on the Chicago Bulls, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Here are your hosts, Matt Peck and Big Dave Watson.
What's up and welcome into Locked On Bulls, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm at Peck. You can follow me on Twitter at Bulls_Peck. You can follow my co-host and friend, Big Dave Watson, at BAWL, BAWL Sports. You can follow us at Locked On Bulls. Hit us up on that text to voicemail line, 331-979-1369. All right, so we're going to talk about the Michael Reinsdorf interview, but before that, real quick, Big Dave, just to plug, we separated today's episode into two parts on YouTube. This is the part where we're talking about the Reinsdorf interview. The other part is a fun thing we got to do earlier on Tuesday morning, which was chat with Bulls All-Star Zach LaVine. Wasn't that fun?
Just a little thing we did, talking with one of the best players on the Chicago Bulls, the guy who has been here from the beginning.
One of the best basketball players on the planet right now.
Yeah, man, two-time All-Star, nothing big and major like that, man. Two-time dunk champion, it ain't no thing, little stuff.
I've been hosting this podcast for 4.5 years, and 3 days before I check out on y'all, we got y'all Zach LaVine. How about that? How's that for a going-away present to you guys, for all of your loyalty?
Congratulations.
And part of that interview, talking with Zach, just so y'all know, and we tweeted it out too, he's doing a giveaway partnership with Mountain Dew. Of course, they are the sponsor for the All-Star Weekend 3-point contest, and they use those special new green dew balls from that dew spot on the floor in the contest for the last few years. Zach is giving away 100 of those green, very limited supply Mountain Dew basketballs, and he's even going to autograph 8 of them. If you want to enter for your chance to win, here's what you got to do. Go to Twitter and tweet at Mountain Dew, and use hashtag DewZoneSweepstakes and tell them why you love basketball. That's it. That's all you got to do, and you'll be entered for your chance to win a Dew green basketball and maybe even signed by Zach LaVine. How cool is that, Dave? Can we enter? Are we allowed to enter?
Why not? Okay, I want a green basketball. I haven't even seen it. I didn't even understand how rare that was until it was pointed out. Like, really? Those don't exist like that?
Yeah, they don't
Like,
sell them. You can't, for all of the NBA All-Star Weekend swag that they sell, all of the merch that they make and sell, they do not sell those green Mountain Dew basketballs.
That's the thing, man. So, and they look really, really cool. Like, let's stay on top of that. They look really amazing. Every time they pick one up in the 3-point contest, I was like, ooh, I hope it goes in. Like, that looks awesome. Yeah.
Right.
That looks cool.
All right. Now, for a crazy smash cut, let's talk about Michael Reinsdorf, shall we? So he did an interview. This is someone who rarely sits down for interviews, Michael Reinsdorf, but having taken over most of the, day-to-day business operations from his father, Jerry, who is still the chairman of the Bulls, every once in a while he will come forward and speak. And he did so with Casey Johnson late last week. First thing I want to read you guys is what he had to say when Casey Johnson asked him about this team's willingness to go into the luxury tax this upcoming season, which of course is right around the corner and a near certainty given the Zach LaVine contract that is in the offing. Here's what Michael Reinsdorf had to say. Absolutely. All you have to do is go back and look at the last number of championship teams. How many of them were in the luxury tax? With the nature of the NBA and having a soft cap, if you want to compete for championships, you have to be willing to spend into the tax. I think most people will tell you, I don't want to spend into the tax if we're not competing for championships. If we're not good enough, I don't want to be the 8th seed or out of the playoffs and paying the luxury tax. But when it comes to a team like this Bulls team, and if we could take the necessary steps next year that allow us to compete for a championship, then for sure we'll go into the tax. It's part of the nature of the NBA. A. Simple question, Big Dave. Do you believe him?
Yes, definitely. And I stopped after absolutely. I was like, good, we're fine. We got it. We're done. The main reason I believe him, Matt, is, well, I shouldn't say the main reason, but the other part of the reason I believe him is because AK. That's the other part of the reason I believe him. AK has not struck me as someone who is going to be phony or someone who is not going to be truthful and forthcoming when he wants something or he needs something. So why should I expect anything different than the person that he talks to often and tells, yo, this is what we need to get on this team, and this is what we need to have this person. So if he's got Michael Reinsdorf on the same page as him, then I definitely believe Michael Reinsdorf when he says, absolutely, we'll go into that luxury tax. Because that just sounds, for me, it just sounds like AK talking, like for real.
Yeah, and I think there's plenty of evidence, at least since April of 2020, when they brought in AK and then he built out his new front office and team staff, that they have been willing to open their wallets. And maybe the Reinsdorfs, Michael and Jerry both, recognized that they needed to spend big to fix this organization that was broken in every way imaginable. It costs money to have a successful NBA franchise. It just does. The mom and pop stuff, it just doesn't work. Or certainly you're at a massive disadvantage. And I think Bulls fans' frustrations over the years were, this is not a mom and pop market. You are the Chicago freaking Bulls. You're the third biggest market team in the NBA. You have a global brand. Spend some money, for crying out loud. And then there's the example of the Bulls only paying the luxury tax once in their history since Jerry Reinsdorf bought this team in the mid-'80s, and that they were on track to do so again in 2014. But then, because Derrick Rose suffered his second consecutive knee injury and they deemed themselves to not be competing for a championship without the services of a healthy Derrick Rose, they traded away Luol Deng to come down and avoid the luxury tax. Pissed Tom Thibodeau off something fierce, pissed off Joakim Noah something fierce. They valued Luol Deng immensely, but they have not been in a position to compete for a championship since that, D Rose, Joakim, Tibbs team broke up. But I think some people out there would ask the question, have they not been in a position to win a championship since then because they aren't willing to pay the tax? Because some teams just say, well, if paying the tax is what it takes to get expensive big name talent here that will help us compete for championships, then we'll do that. The Bulls, after trading Jimmy, decided to try to build through the draft instead of spending big on free agents. The other crux of that problem is they couldn't convince any of the big name free agents to come here.
Yeah. No, that's the other side of that sword right there. We'll rebuild this way and then we'll be able to get people here. No, because since they know you guys aren't spending the money, they're not going to want to come here to play with you guys. That's just not how that works. I don't know if you all know this, but NBA players like money. They like getting their money and like being paid. As much as they like the comfort, as much as they like the team, as much as they like all those other things, you got to be like, oh yeah, we're going to pay you. Yeah, that has to be a thing. So yeah, Matt. But again, I think that's the whole key of this for me, Matt, is I believe him. And that's been, and just being 100% real, that's been a rare thing to say over the past few years, about people coming out of the front office is, you know what? I 100% believe you when you say you're going to do something like this. So it feels good to be able to put that faith and that belief in Mike and what he's saying about what he wants to do for this team, because it just really means that you're all in alignment with what you want this team to be. You're in line with what the front office wants in AK. You're in line with what the coaching wants. You're in line with what the players want. Because now I can just go down level by level by level, and everybody will have the same ideology and the same kind of thought and the same kind of thinking. Everybody achieves it differently because everybody has a role to play. The fact Michael Reinsdorf now knows the role he has to play just makes me feel better about the future of this team.
That's an uplifting note to take a break on. We want to talk more about this Reinsdorf interview, including some other comments he made about why they weren't in the luxury tax before with the previous regime, and now why he is so confident in the jobs that AK and Eversley are doing. We will do that in just a minute. But first, today's episode brought to you by Prize Picks. NBA fans, are you looking for a daily fantasy option for the NBA? Then you need to try the award-winning app. That's right. It's won awards, and it's called Prize Picks. Prize Picks is daily fantasy made easy. I love it, and I know you will too. It's really easy to use. You just pick 2 to 5 players and an over and under on their projections, and you can win up to 10 times on any entry, and it's just you versus the projected numbers. Entries can be made in 60 seconds or less. It really is that easy. Prize Picks is also safe and offers super fast withdrawals. Use the award-winning app on both the App Store and Google Play. Plus, they offer a variety of options. Any prop you can think of, from points scored to rebounds, even steals. Jimmy Buckets had 5 against the Bulls the other night, I think. Prize Picks even allows mixed sport entries. So if you're watching an NBA game on the same night that you also got an eye on some college hoops, you can make a mixed entry on what a college player is going to do and what an NBA player is going to do. And Prize Picks doesn't just offer the NBA. Like I said, they've got college hoops in there, plus college football, NFL, MLB, soccer, MMA, and more. So for a limited time, here's what you do. Prize Picks has an exclusive no-brainer of an offer for all of our Locked On Bulls listeners. They will get $50 for free if a player in your first Prize Picks entry scores a single fantasy point. But you must use code NBA. That's right. This is an exclusive offer available to our Locked On Bulls fans. Sign up today and use code NBA. $50 for free if a player in your first Prize Picks entry scores a single point. Prize Picks, it's daily fantasy made easy.
You know what, guys? Usually I come on here and I rant about, or I shouldn't say rant, but I just talk so glowingly about Built Bars, and how healthy they are, 130 calories, the grams of chicken, all that. Yeah. But guess what I found out? Have you tried the Built Bar Puffs? Oh my goodness gracious in heaven. Good God. The Puffs are the first ever protein infused marshmallow. You hear what I said? They're fluffy, marshmallowy, and delicious. Yes, that's a word because I said it. They're not just a protein bar, they're a treat. And of course, they're covered in 100% real chocolate with that incredible flavors. You got cinnamon, you got churro, you got coconut marshmallow, you got banana cream pie. They are so dang on good. But of course, on top of that, you got the other delicious Built Bars that I talk about, the 130 calories, the 4 grams of sugar, the 4 net carbs, 17 grams of protein. And of course, they got that flavor of the month that my man Matt Peck is going to tell you about right about now.
Mint brownie!
Oh! Get you a puff and a mint brownie, y'all. What you doing? Built.com. Lock15. Get yourself 15% off your order. Use that promo code Lock15 to get yourself 15% off your order at Built.com. Built Bar. Puff, puff, pass.
All right, moving along, talking about this recent interview that Bulls president and COO Michael Reinsdorf did with Casey Johnson for NBC Sports Chicago. One of the things I did take issue with in this interview, one of his comments, Dave, that bugged me, is when he was talking about the previous regime of John Paxson and Gar Forman as VP and GM, saying that them not spending big was not necessarily about them obeying the rules that were set forth by ownership, by Michael and his father, Jerry, but about them being a hands-off group of owners, pair of owners, father and son, who let the front office run the team, run the basketball operations. And Michael Reinsdorf, and I'm paraphrasing here, but I think fairly accurately said, well, John and Gar didn't spend big because they didn't spend big and they had their reasons to do so. And we're hands off. So we just sat back and watched them do their jobs. That I heard and said, come on. If you really care about winning championships, getting back, how many years now have you been living off of the glory days, still profiting off of the glory days? You've been to one conference finals appearance since 1998. And clearly, towards the tail end of John and Gar's run, they were struggling to figure it out.
Yeah.
So you don't step in and say, hey, guys, maybe takes money to make money. Spend a little to get quality talent here. Do something different than what you're doing because what you're doing ain't working. No, they watched John and Gar floundering, and Michael's reasoning for not spending big in that stretch of seasons and years was, well, we hired them to do the jobs. We let them do the jobs. We're very hands off. That really, really bugged me.
I'm sure it did. Because I can't defend it. So yeah, I man, that's a wild thing to say. Only because after we're just talking here about AK and we hear, basically how open he is with his lines of communication and how pretty much hands-on he is with everyone in the organization, how he wants everyone involved. Him saying, well, Pax and Gar, well, they just wanted to do it themselves. And we said, all right, go ahead. And it's like, wait a minute. But when you're losing and, things are going wrong and, the national media is destroying us and, everybody knows this is terrible. Like, can you step in and give them some dough? And it's like, nah, they got it. It's cool. That's not a good look. You know what I'm saying? It's just not a good look when you're saying your team is struggling and you might be able to help them. I'm not saying them giving them all that money is what was going to immediately just vault them into contention or anything like that. But it damn sure would have helped, if you're like, hey, how about I lend you a hand here? We put some money up to sign this guy. So is it though, Matt? Is it kind of, and I guess I'm asking you this because I'm very interested in hearing you. Is it him trying to absolve, the blame here and just saying, you know what, it was on them. They ran it their way. They handled it how they wanted. I ain't had nothing to do with that. But now when they came, oh man, well, this is the guy we wanted, we hired, hey, he's looking good. How I wanted to do it like that. Do you feel this was kind of him just absolving himself?
Yes, I do. I think it was Michael trying to absolve himself of guilt of a long, brutal stretch of years for the fans that have given so much of themselves to support this team that things were going south real quickly. And well, that's because John and Gar were running the team and we let them run the team. And basically saying, I'm not cheap and Daddy's not cheap. John and Gar were cheap when they with the way that they were running our organization. And so here's my thing. Either he's not being completely 100% truthful about that, and there were some restrictions handed down to John and Gar about spending, and so basically that's Michael lying, or he's telling the truth, and that John and Gar did not have any restrictions set forth by ownership about spending. But even still, that just means that as you sat there and watched them drowning, trying to run this organization and make them a winning organization, you sat back and did nothing for kind of a long time. Yeah. And so either way you break it down, is it dishonesty or is it, ignorance? Either way, it's not great. Either way, it's not great. Here's the thing that he said about AK, and I want to get your thoughts on this because this is the other thing that irked me. Okay. He kept using the word creative to describe Arturas Karnisovas through the hiring process and watching him work over the better part of the last 2 years. Saying, last year at the trading deadline, he pulled the trigger on Vooch, but what people don't know is that on that board, he also had circled DeMar DeRozan. When the season ended and free agency started, we had no cap space, but he was incredibly creative in how he created space through that sign-and trade. His creativity is shown with this team. Here's a question. Did Michael Reinsdorf know what a sign-and-trade was before Arturas did one? Anyone? What Michael Reinsdorf calls creative from a front office executive in the NBA, I call competence from a front office executive in the NBA. How is it that he watched the previous regime sit on their thumbs up their you-know-whats, and be like, yeah, they're doing a fine job. Arturas comes in, pulls off a few sign-and trades, and Michael's like, so creative. I feel like I'm watching a genius artisan at work. What? Such creativity. You mean more creative than the nothing that the previous guys did while you sat there and watched for years? And look, I'm not trying to discredit Arturas with this. Bulls fans should love the fact that he finagled all of those sign-and trades this offseason to construct the roster that we have now. But it's like, Michael's like, I can't believe, did you know there was this thing called a sign-and trade? Oh my gosh, Arturas just opened our eyes to brand new horizons.
Okay. I didn't take it as that. That's hilarious. That's absolutely hilarious. I took it a little more broader than that. I was giving him credit for thinking of the creative things he's seen do totally. Not just the sign and trade with Vooch, but just the myriad of sign and trades he's done in the off season, especially when people kept asking how the hell are the Bulls going to get anybody? They don't have anything. And then he goes and pulls those things off. That was incredibly creative. That's how I took that. But I can definitely see how you would feel that way. I can definitely see that. But that's how I took it, that he was looking at that. But you're right. I want to piggyback on what you just said. But you're right, Matt. When you were dealing with the front office previously, maybe it is looking creative to you when you could do something simple as a simple sided trade, when you were used to guys just being traded and getting back second round picks, when cash considerations became so popular that it became one of the best Bulls podcasts out there. You know what I'm saying? Just the name cash consideration. You know what I mean? Shout out to Jason, shout out to Ricky.
Shout out to Ricky.
But man, dude, like, I feel you on that, but I'm going to give him a little credit and think that he means that more entirely, you know what I'm saying? And then just one specific focus of just that one thing he did, just because it's true. And you're right. That word creative was said a lot. You know what I'm saying? In this, it was said a whole lot in this, man. And yeah, but I'll give him credit on that aspect and say it was a little more broad. I'm thinking he was a little more broad in that, in those sign and trades that he's talking about.
Michael talks about how he's in awe of Arturas' basketball intellect.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I don't think Michael has ever claimed to know a great deal about basketball, even though
True.
since he was Jerry's son, young, growing up. I mean, like, he's been around the Chicago Bulls, one of the most iconic sports franchises in the history of man.
Yeah.
And maybe should have taken the time to learn a little bit more about basketball, especially the ins and outs of how NBA works on a business side, on a legal side, and on the basketball side, knowing that one day likely he was going to be taking over for his father, running one of the most profitable sports franchises on the planet. You think maybe you invest a little time? It's like the descendants of Hallis with the Bears, right? It's the same thing. It's like George McCaskey knows nothing about football, but he's really great at picking people who do know stuff about football. It's the same thing with the Reinsdorfs. And it's when you go back to talking about money spending, Dave, you can't not think about the dynasty regime.
Yeah.
And like, younger Bulls fans who maybe weren't around to know about all that drama, they got a history lesson with The Last Dance. And I'm talking about Scottie Pippen and his issue with that long contract he signed that very soon into that long contract made him one of the most grossly underpaid professional athletes ever.
Yeah.
And Jerry Reinsdorf in that documentary recalls that anecdote, saying to Scottie, look, I don't like this contract for you. This is a bad contract. You will be worth more than this, and you will be worth more than this soon. Don't sign this contract. ... If you do sign this contract, do not come back to me and ask for more money. And, so that was 30 years ago or so. Here we are now, different regime, but it's still the same ownership of the Reinsdorfs who say, we are the bank. We hire people to make the decisions. But once a decision has been made, once a contract has been signed, done deal. They're hands off and firm in ways that are strange, while they're also very loyal and forgiving to certain people.
What you just said, and I'm just using this as an example, and because I don't think it works well now in 2022, because like you just said, obviously guys need to know more about the game. You know what I'm saying? The basketball is much more intricate in the dealings and the money and the things like that. But what you were saying reminds me of something I heard Jim Croce said, awesome, musician Jim Croce said a long time ago, how he said, I miss when the record executives were just these big dudes who smoked cigars all day and wore suits and didn't know anything about the music that they were signing. He said, I missed it because they were like, well, I don't know anything about it. I don't know. I don't really like it, but it looks cool and it might work. So here's some money. You know what I'm saying? And try it out. That's what I was thinking. And that might still be the mentality, you know what I'm saying, of this. But like you said, it's changed somewhat. You know what I'm saying? Like, you have to have a little more knowledge about the guys you're signing, about luxury tax and things of that nature. Those things weren't around, so much. They weren't as prevalent, back in those days. But yeah, man, I hear you. I'm not here to quell anybody's frustration, you know what I'm saying, or anything like that with what we dealt with the front office and the Bulls and what we had to deal with. But you know me, Matt, I like looking at the happiness of what's going on with this team right now. And I'm just happy that he answered the main question that I had, which was, dude, will you go into this luxury tax? And the main thing he said was absolutely. I swear, when I saw absolutely, everything else was a blur to me. I was good. I was like, fine, absolutely. That means my team's going to be nice for the next years to come because I got the right people in place to get the right people around him, man. So, but yeah, I'm pleased, Bulls fans. I feel you. I hear you.
So, look, he gave the answer that Bulls fans were hoping to hear. Now the next step is hoping that, he puts literally money where his mouth is this offseason when the Bulls are getting ready to sign Zach to a max extension. And then we can be fine with not hearing from Michael Reinsdorf again for a long, long time. Because, hey, that's the way they like it. That's the way they want it. Hands off. We're not in the public eye a whole lot. We're not Mark Cuban. We're not Jerry Jones. We're not that kind of owner. We sit back and let the basketball people work. Well, fortunately, it appears this time they picked well in the picking people who know about basketball to run basketball, and hopefully we'll let them do their jobs, including that very important clause of job doing requires money spending. Hopefully this is a new page and a new leaf when it comes to the Bulls ownership and how they view those kinds of decisions. All right, that's it for that. Again, separate YouTube video. Might pop up right here towards the end of this, or if not, just go back and look at our most recent uploads. Our interview with Zach LaVine. Check it out. And don't forget to enter for your chance to win one of those Mountain Dew 3-point contest green basketballs, maybe even one autographed by Zach himself. Also, be sure to tune into our Thursday episode when we will be welcoming in your new hosts of Locked On Bulls. Talk with them a little bit about their Bulls fandom, their passion, and them taking over for myself and Big Dave. Looking forward to that. So stay tuned for our Thursday episode. In the meantime, hit us up on Twitter at Bulls_Peck, at BAW, BAWL Sports, and at Locked On Bulls. And then there were two. Till next time, Bulls Nation, we love you. See red, be good. Peace.